Bassey vanished from the Celtics Summer League roster just as fast as he exploded onto it, and no one saw it coming. In just 3 games, he looked like the kind of player who forces a franchise to make uncomfortable decisions, the kind of under-the-radar big who dominates quietly until you realize you can't ignore him anymore, but now he's gone. And the reasons why are murkier than they appear. Before Thursday's game against the Lakers, the Celtics announced Bassey was done for the Summer League. No injury, no fallout. Just a vague reference to prior commitments and the curtain dropped. This wasn't a 2-minute bench guy who came in for garbage time. This was Boston's most consistent and impactful player through 3 games. And his departure raises more questions than answers. Bassey wasn't even supposed to be here. He wasn't on the original roster. He missed the live portion of the first practice. But once he stepped on the court, he played like a man with something to prove. 14 points and 11 boards in the opener. Then 22 points, 13 rebounds, and 3 blocks against the Knicks. By the time he logged 10 and 9 in his final appearance, he had already turned heads, not just in Boston, but around the league. Quietly, but decisively. And just when fans began to dream of him as a front-court piece to strengthen an already stacked Celtics rotation, he exits without a whisper. It's not just confusing, it's calculated. Because while most assume it was just a short-term appearance, the impact he left suggests otherwise. Something deeper is at play. His exit creates a vacuum, and in Boston, vacuums are never left empty. For long, enter Amari Williams. The Celtics used a second-round pick on him for a reason. He's raw, but watch closely and you'll see flashes that echo Bassey's physical presence and defensive timing. With Bassey out, Williams isn't just getting minutes, he's getting opportunity. Real opportunity. And then there's Kenny Lofton Jr., fresh off an MVP campaign in China. Lofton is built like an outlier, and plays like one too. With Bassey stepping aside, Lofton could finally get the stretch of minutes he needs to prove he's not just a novelty, but a rotational level disruptor. So the question isn't why Bassey left. The question is what his exit might unlock. Because in Boston, every move is part of a bigger plan. And if you think the Celtics are done surprising you, this summer, you haven't been paying attention. There's something happening in Las Vegas that most NBA fans are completely overlooking. And if you're a Celtics fan, you need to hear this. While the headlines are focused on Bronny James and viral clips, Boston just sent a loud and clear message, not only to the Lakers, but to the entire league. This wasn't just a Summer League win, it was a statement. A statement hidden in the box score, buried under the hype, and packed with future implications that could shake the Eastern Conference. If you think this was just another off-season game, think again, because what happened Thursday night might have revealed the next chapter in Boston's silent revolution. Did the Celtics just expose Bronny James? Bronny came in with the spotlight, ESPN cameras were rolling, the crowd was buzzing, and every possession he touched was treated like a playoff moment. But reality hit hard. 0 points in the first half, 8 turnovers total. And while he did bounce back after the break with 18 points and some flashy drives, Boston's defense had already done the damage. They trapped, rotated, and suffocated his rhythm. What's more interesting, Boston's defensive blueprint looked oddly familiar. The same schemes they used to shut down all-star guards during the playoffs. Coincidence? Or is Joe Matsu's influence creeping into Summer League rotations? Either way, Bronny's stat line tells one story, but the film that shows a team that came prepared to embarrass the headline. Is Jordan Walsh more important than we thought? He wasn't the most hyped prospect. He wasn't trending. But when the lights came on, Jordan Walsh looked like the most confident player on the court. While Bronny tried to find his footing, Walsh was everywhere to 17 points, 6 rebounds, 2 steals, and 0 fear. Especially in the second half, when the Lakers tried to claw their way back, it was Walsh who stopped the bleeding and reasserted control. And here's the plot twist. He's not fighting for a roster spot, he's fighting for a rotation role. With Boston's bench expected to shift after the championship run, this version of Walsh could end up playing real minutes next season. Nobody's talking about that yet. Was this win actually about Brad Stevens' long game? Let's be honest, most people see Summer League as a testing ground, but Brad Stevens sees something else. A lab, a place to stress test identities, build chemistry under pressure, and find those rare intangibles you can't spot in workouts. Hugo Gonzalez came out firing, Kenneth Lofton Jr. showed poise, and the bench unit executed with surgical discipline. That 16-0 run in the second quarter. That's not random. That's structure. That's coaching. That's Boston's system, extending its roots even in July. And when you notice how this young squad handled momentum swings, executed in late-game sets, and even adjusted defensively mid-game, it's impossible to ignore. This isn't just talent, it's culture, and Stevens is pulling every string behind the curtain. What does this game tell us about Boston's identity in 2025? This wasn't just about beating the Lakers, it was about how they did it. Boston started slow, looked shaky, and missed open shots, but they never unraveled. They stuck to the game plan, waited for the Lakers to crack, then pounced. It felt calculated, almost cruel. The second quarter was a masterclass in controlled aggression. And when Bronny caught fire in the second half, Boston didn't panic. They just closed ranks, forced more turnovers, and walked out with a W that looked routine. That's identity. And if your Summer League squad already plays with that kind of discipline, what does that say about the main roster? It says one thing loud and clear: Boston isn't celebrating last season anymore. They're already preparing for war. So here's the truth nobody wants to admit. While other teams are busy chasing headlines, the Celtics are quietly building the next version of dominance. And it's happening in plain sight. In gyms, nobody's watching with players, nobody's hyping. Jordan Walsh, Hugo Gonzalez, Kenny Lofton Jr. are not just Summer League guys, they're the new wave. Thursday's win wasn't just revenge against the Lakers, it was a warning. Boston is coming back deeper, smarter, and more ruthless than ever. What did you see in this game that others missed? Drop your take in the comments and tell me, who's the breakout star we'll all be talking about by October? And don't forget, next game's coming. New revelations are coming. And if you think this was surprising, just wait until Sunday. See you in the next breakdown. Jordan Walsh didn't just dunk on the Lakers, he may have just dunked on every assumption about his future in Boston. This wasn't just a flashy highlight or an empty Summer League moment. What happened in the fourth quarter against the Lakers was a pulse check, a warning shot, a declaration that the quietest man on the court might be carrying the loudest message of all. When Walsh caught that laser pass from Kenny Lofton Jr. and detonated at the rim, it wasn't just 2 points, it was a shift in narrative. And the kiss he blew to the Lakers fans afterward, that wasn't arrogance, that was punctuation, came before that play, and what followed it tell a much deeper story. One that should matter to anyone wondering who's ready to fight for a spot in Boston's loaded rotation. Walsh didn't walk into that game with something to prove. He walked in needing to survive. After being ejected in the first half against the Heat and targeted physically by the Lakers, Walsh didn't lash out, didn't unravel. He studied the chaos, embraced the contact, and responded with poise, efficiency, and just enough violence to remind everyone watching he's not here to blend in. 17 points, 6 rebounds, 2 steals. 6 for 11 from the floor, 2 for 4 from deep, 6 trips to the line. The most consistent Celtic in this Summer League didn't need to dominate, he just needed to show growth, control, and fire. And he delivered all 3 in a single night on the biggest Summer League stage possible, a win over the Lakers. In front of a split crowd, under national lights. Here's the kicker. Walsh's contract is only partially guaranteed. And yet, the urgency in his game feels nothing like desperation. It feels like purpose. Boston brought in Hugo Gonzalez in the first round. They loaded the Summer League roster with wings and grinders. But none of them have done what Walsh is doing, turning quiet confidence into tangible momentum. This isn't a comeback story because Walsh never truly arrived in the first place. This is something more dangerous. This is the emergence of a player who is buried under depth charts, overlooked in rotations, and nearly forgotten during last year's Vegas campaign. Now he's reminding the front office and the fan base that he's not just surviving in a competitive war. He might just be winning it. The final Summer League game may be labeled a consolation, but don't let the name fool you. For Jordan Walsh, every minute is a battlefield, every possession a resume. And if you think the Celtics already know what they have in him, think again. The quiet ones are always the ones you should fear most.